This is the LG 21FS2CL-TS. It is a 21-inch or 51cm CRT television. It's a very late model from around 2006, best I can ascertain. It has a pure flat tube with a 4:3 aspect ratio, and it is one of LG's super slim models that has a tube that is more shallow than traditional tubes. You might be able to see in the top left corner Super Slim. That designates the Super Slim tube that's inside. Turn the volume down a little bit just in case. Right now there's a Nintendo Gamecube NTSC hooked up to the television via Componenet. Yes, it does have component input despite it being a smaller television. Right now we're in 480i. On the front we have the power button, the power LED, the infrared remote receiver, menu button, OK, volume, down and up, program, down and up. Being around the back we can see AV in number 2 with the composite and stereo left and right. This is a stereo television, and a little helpline phone number, a little LG sticker in red there in camera view. Coming back on this Super Slim CRT, our sticker with the model number, sales model number and product code 21FS2CL, made in Thailand. Then the all important inputs and output, of course, an RF in. Then the component, and that's what it's all about on this television. Output for composite video and stereo output, and the AV1 in on the bottom, composite in and left and right audio inputs. Our Australian plug and our slender Super Slim tube. Does it really look that super slim though? Does it really? It doesn't strike me as being super slim. If it didn't have that piece on the back there, I'd say yeah, that is a very slim CRT. Certainly no fatter than any others. It all depends what you're used to. Let's have a look inside. No real surprises. The tube is a LG Philips, made in Korea. Size A51, 51 centimeters confirmed. Speaker on the right side, speaker on the left side. Chassis is about the normal size. Very small neck board. On the chassis we see a sticker, Australia. So it's definitely an Aussie model. Even our flyback transformer has a branding on it, Changshu or something like that. I don't have the matching remote, however I'm using this LG remote instead, 6710V00112Q. It gives me full usage of the television via this remote, so it's adequate for the job. The service manual mentions a model number for the remote that you can use or is supposed to come with the TV. If you put this model number in to Google, you will find many aftermarket versions of the remote and should be adequate for the job. While I'm here, I should actually show you the menu system, and the good thing about this television is if you don't have the remote, you can use all its functions, all the essentials from here on front, and it's a fairly intuitive setup. We can go across and then we can go, I don't want to do any of this programming. So what I'll do is, this is the picture menu. So we've got some presets, and I like to go into the user so I can customize it. XD is, it's a gimmick. All it is all it is a booster. It just boosts the brightness up. You won't particularly notice that with no real image on the screen. This is an interesting option. It actually gives a slightly different tinge to the picture. It just gives it a little bit more red, a little bit more green, a little bit more blue. Don't know if there's really any particular point to that. It's not a temperature setting, it's simply if you want to give the image a slightly different color tinge, and it doesn't greatly affect the image. Contrast, I've got it at 60. Brightness was at about 60, but I've put it to 45 because the blacks were a bit too grey. So 45 gets your blacks black. Color, 55. Sharpness, a little bit more on the soft side is what I like. As for sound, you've got the various presets that you want. Turbo sound, again, that's another one of these gimmick things. All it is a booster. It just makes it louder and that's all. AVL's automatic volume limiter. It'll only go up so loud. Balance, obviously, it's a stereo television. You can favour which speaker gets the sound. And then some other things, the clock, off timer, on timer, automatically go off, child lock. That's your menu. Essentially that's it. If you have an NTSC signal, you will also get a tint option too. That's our menu system done. A NES is now hooked up, a PAL NES. This is simply to establish that the light gun works, and I have full confidence that it will. The good thing about cheaper televisions is that they don't have all the frills like 100 Hz. So often the cheaper sets are actually better for retro gaming. That's a good start. Let's see how it goes. Hey. Not a surprise. Now hang on. We need to go to 2 ducks. I want to get near the edges of the screen to see how it goes. Come on, go up, go. That's it. No, that's pretty good. One more lot. Good. Good pass on that. No problem, even though it's a pure flat tube. The light gun works. They do work on pure flat tubes despite the erroneous belief that guns don't. The Sega Saturn is now hooked up. It's an NTSC system via composite video, NTSC game. Simply done to tick off the box to show that the TV supports NTSC playback via composite. You don't need, or it doesn't have any option to choose between PAL, NTSC or auto. It is in auto from factory and will adjust to the incoming signal. We should be able to now see, yes, at the bottom, tint. There's the tint adjustment. That'll only come up when the TV receives an NTSC signal. Back to the Gamecube. This is a different Gamecube. This is a PAL Gamecube console. It's one of the ones that does not have the digital output on the back of the system, simply analog. So we are in composite video. It has a mod chip inside, which is displaying this screen now. It can automatically change to PAL and NTSC via the mod chip. I'll boot Artemio's 240p test suite so we can get a grid up. Test patterns, grid. You can see that the image is a little bit too much to the left. There is a gap on the right side here, and this one's cut off, so that whole picture needs to be pushed across. Maybe the vertical size needs to be squished down a bit as well. The service menu is only accessible by a special remote. That is a factory service remote. I have the remote for the television to enter the service menu, the special factory SVC Remicon MKJ39170A28, and with this bad boy we can get immediate access. Let's put it to the test. Firstly, this remote is adequate for complete substitution of the original. It has full functionality. Channel up, channel down, volume up, volume down. You can change AV input directly. AV1, AV2. Let's see what happens with AV3. It doesn't have an AV3, so it can't go there. Component 1, yep. HDMI obviously is not going to work. We can press the menu button. We can navigate through the menu system. In other words, we have complete control as a regular remote. However, we want to get into the service menu. So easy to get into the service menu. We simply press the Instart button where my thumb's waving. You're in immediately. And to get out, you press exit. You're straight out, back into regular menu system. We'll go back in with Instart, version 3.05. I take that would be the firmware of the television. So we've got one adjustment, automatic gain control, I surmise. If we press up on channel, plus and minus, we can go through various adjustment options. Horizontal position, vertical size, red bias, green bias, blue bias, red drive, green drive, blue drive, vertical linearity, some sort of correction, and so on and so on. YC filter. We're up to 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. It's still going, still going. We're over 60, 70, 80. So 80, 85 adjustments here alone. If we press menu, we get even more options. Menu again, more options. More options. More options. And back again. Let's go into the Gamecube because I want to be able to at least get right now, for example's sake, the grid centered. It's been centered. Back into the service menu. Goes black and white, the picture, for some reason during this adjustment procedure. Horizontal position, I've put it to 10. We can go across to 31, come back. Oh, we just rolled right through. Hang on, we'll go back. We can go down to 0. It was too far to the left. That there at 10 is about right. Vertical position as well was, I think it was a little too high. In any case, that shows you the range of movement. It needs to come down to about there. Vertical size, we can stretch it out. Whoa, that goes a long way. Whoa, 127 all the way down to holy moly. Wow, that's a big range. Let's get it to where it'll fit. About there. Now, here's the crazy thing. You would expect the next option, number 4, would be horizontal size, because I want to stretch the screen horizontally 1 or 2 more clicks. I can't find it here on the OSD. So I looked at the service manual and it says you basically don't need to set horizontal width, but in case you do, you have to go inside the television and adjust variable resistor 403. So I'm going to have to open up the television just to have a look for VR403 to make this horizontal width adjustment. There it is, VR403 variable resistor, the trimmer. Not the worst spot, not the best. I'd rather it be pointing horizontally out here. I don't like having to go in there and adjust it, so I'm not going to, but I'm sure you could probably rotate that in one direction to just get that little bit more stretch to fit. A bit annoying having that in as a physical dial rather than an on-screen display adjustment, but at least it does have it. At least it does have it. So you can make that adjustment, and if you do, you probably won't ever need to do it again. Just out of curiosity, going back into... Oh, that's a different... There's adjustments all over the place with this service remote. On a side note, a couple of things I observed from before. We can set our television would be currently Thailand, Vietnam, Multi, Australia, assuming that's Australia. SCART as well. There is no SCART socket on the back. Curious to see what sort of experimentation could implement the SCART. Color bars. I want some screens. There's our white screen. Now, if you've watched any of my other LG videos with Super Slim tubes, there's one in particular, and I'll put the link up above now, that's sharp in the center but very blurry for the majority of the screen. This one seems to be better. They all seem to have some technology, or let's call it trickery, out on the edges here on the left side and the right side. It's if the spacing between the phosphor, the dot pitch, is larger, if that's correct to say, but you can notice by eye that the, let's call them pixels or phosphor dots, have more black around them on the edges than the ones in the center, for sure. And my prediction would be that given that the tube is shallow, it would have a high deflection angle, which would cause the beam spot landing to give a fairly large or blurred image, whereas they've spaced out the phosphor dots quite a bit. In case there's any spillover, there's no phosphor to illuminate. I hope that message is getting across, but it's a little tricky for me to explain. But the spacing out there is to reduce the blurriness, I think. This does end up giving somewhat of a what's the word I'm looking for? Grainy look. That's what I think about the picture in general. It is rather grainy, particularly on the outsides. Not something that's an absolute deal breaker, but that is the compromise I think they've made in going for a slimmer tube. But this is certainly an improvement over one of the LGs from the past. Now that black, oh, that's a grade up black anyway. I won't reduce the brightness in that case. Again, there's the vertical size needs to be reduced and centered a little bit. The top's getting cut off. I want to move on to the other Gamecube now with Componenet, and we'll test the ability for the television's 480p. Not that I expect it to, but we must conduct that test. Back on the Gamecube, the NTSC one in Componenet 480i, about to boot F0GX. Holding down B to get the progressive scan option that should come up very, very shortly. Right. Do I want progressive? Yes. There's our split screen showing us that progressive scan is not supported on the television. We'll get the split image. No progressive scan support, no surprise at all. Overall, I don't mind the television. I like the fact that it has Componenet. It became more of a standard feature on CRT televisions to have Componenet going into the mid-2000s, simply due to all the DVD players out there, Gamecubes, Xboxes, PS2. This was the signal format of choice. SCART was never a standard here in Australia, but Componenet started to take over, and it's good to see on a smaller set, and even other smaller TVs again than this have Componenet input. Has NTSC playback on composite video as well as Componenet. No S-video. Also, I didn't point out earlier, it has no headphone jack either. Unusual for a television not to have that. However, it does have audio out via 2 RCAs on the back, as well as composite video output. Picture's a little grainy, but I don't mind it. I think it still looks reasonably good. It's a nice looking set, not like that blurry LG they were reviewed a few years ago. Another good thing about this TV is that it's made in 2006. It's got much newer electronics than, say, picking up a TV from the early 90s or the 80s. It's going to be far more reliable, despite the capacitor plague that occurred in the 2000s. Whether or not this is affected by it, I do not know. But generally speaking, a newer television will be more reliable than an older one. But there's exceptions, of course. But all in all, it's probably less risk to get a newer one. Works with guns, is not 100 Hertz. Good TV, good TV. I wouldn't pass it up. I think it's quite reasonable. If you want something smaller, something with a smaller footprint that's not too big, again, a good choice. You will not be able to rotate it onto its side, however. Being slim fit, it's got no edge on the sides to sit on its sides. So you will not be playing it in a Tate tape mode at all. Again, overall, nice television. With the service menu adjustment, you should be able to get it centered. Thank you for watching. Definitely keep an eye out for this one. I don't see much around on it on Google searches. But again, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more to come.